I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with Morgan Cooper, who created and developed Bel-Air, the Fresh Prince reboot that's now on Peacock. And I wanted to just start with the fact that you created the mock trailer in 2019 and then now to making the series itself. I'm just curious, at what point in the process did you realize like the actual potential in a real reboot of the show?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I always consider it, and everybody says this, right? So reimagining.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could reboot the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and do it the same way at all. So it really is truly reimagined. It's taking the spirit of the characters and the concept and completely flipping it on its head and setting it in a completely different time with a different take on these characters. And so, I knew it was special, and I knew it had real legs and potential when the idea hit me originally. I was driving down 71 highway in my hometown in Kansas City. And the second the idea hit me, I said, I felt it in my spirit that this was something really, really special. But for me, it's all about like put one foot in front of the other. And in due time, we'll see what happens with it, but just stay focused on making the art. And so that's what I did. I got to work making the short film, and less than 24 hours later, Westbrook, Will's company reached out to me. And, I go to Calabasas the next day, and Will's on FaceTime. He was down in Miami shooting Bad Boys 3. And he's like, yo, this is incredible. What I mean? He was so excited about it. And, he asked me, what do you want to do with it? And I feel like as artists, there are always kind of those moments of truth in your career when one moment can like really change the trajectory of your career. And I was ready to pitch him my vision for adapting this into a 1-hour drama. And several years later, here we are.
Wow. Well, I did want to just speak to your conversations with him. I was just curious if there were some elements that were important to him personally that you sort of not necessarily like have to include in the show, but felt like was necessary for it to be reimagined in the first place, and just maybe just how involved he was in the process of just making this first season.
Yeah, Will is such an amazing guy. And I remember being on the set of King Richard. We stopped by the set to spend time with him developing the idea, and he writing down his ideas. And he's such a great storyteller, has such great ideas. And I remember I didn't really particularly want a Jeffrey character in this reimagining. And if people watched my short film, there was no Jeffrey in it. And I actually made a point to say there are no butlers, right? And the reason why is I had an issue kind of with the concept of like a modern Black family having a Black butler. Just that dynamic bothered me, and it felt really dated. But he was like, well, I really feel like we should have Jeffrey. And so like, take some time with it, just think about it, and like see if you can find. So he really challenged me in that way to think of an interesting take for Jeffrey. And I was watching the show Top Boy on Netflix, and seeing life of roadmen in East London, and getting a snapshot into that life. And all of a sudden this backstory for Jeffrey hit me. And I had this take on Jeffrey that I shared with him that he was really excited about. But that came from Will, having the belief in the project and having the belief in these characters, and really just challenging us in a really positive way, to take the material to new heights. And now Jeffrey is a lot of people's favorite character. So
Yeah, he's great. I'm actually curious just what the key elements were from Fresh Prince that you knew that you wanted to carry over into this new series, and then what parts you felt like needed expanding or changing with especially with this taking place in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so different
Yeah.
from the Fresh Prince. You know what I mean? It really is. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, man. When I was making the short film, I made it a point. I didn't watch one episode of the Fresh Prince the entire process from when the idea hit me to when we finished it and released it. I didn't watch a single episode. And the reason why is because I didn't want the vision of reimagining this to be overly influenced by the OG sitcom. In my mind, it was just like, we all know these characters. We all know the world really well. So like, with the memories and of the spirit of these characters, you know what I mean? Like use that to like form this new world, right? Without being in a way like kind of hinged to the old ideas and kind of the old, like, it was a sitcom. It was a 30-minute sitcom in 1991, right? Where it was a lot of hijinks and a lot of fun. It's an incredible show. And, you know, what they did is iconic, and I'll forever, you know, be in debt to what they did. This wouldn't exist without what they did. But at the same time, it's a new day and age, and you can't do that again, right? So for me, it was about what is like the pure vision forward facing for today, and letting real stories of what's happening today, you know, inform these characters as we see them now. The spirit is there, right? The story is still there, but it's just done in a completely different way. And I'm really proud of our result, man.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously finding a new version of Will Smith must have been a tall order. So I'd love to know just about how you found Jabari Banks, and also whether it was intentional that you found someone who had never acted on screen before, which is still wild to me.
Yeah, that was more kismet, honestly. That was more kismet, but we'll take it because Jabari Banks is brilliant. But yeah, I mean, I got to give, you know, a huge shout out to Vicky Thomas and Lee Jonty, our incredible casting directors who discovered Jabari. And, you know, we saw a lot of different Wills through the audition process. I mean, hundreds of kids, and there were some talented guys, and you know, but a lot of the success of the show really hinges on this choice. You know what I mean? So we have to get this right. And you know, it was very intensive. And Jabari, I mean, God, he had to, you know, have 3 or 4 rounds of callbacks. And I remember going to Philly when we were scouting for the pilot. We were scouting for the pilot and hadn't casted Will yet. That's how like quick the casting process came together. And I remember sitting in the lounge of this hotel and meeting Jabari, and you know, just seeing the look in his eyes and his swag and charisma and his earnestness. He was just so excited about the prospect of doing this. And, you know, we just talked just as, you know, just as friends, you know, like we really found a bond right away, and I felt a connection to him. And I remember we stepped outside, and I had my Fuji X100V with me. And I remember just snapping some pictures of him in Philly, you know, and just like getting his vibe on his physicality and his swagger. How does he move? You know, how does he posture? Just all these things. And I walked away. I said, we found Will. No question. It was him. And, you know, thankfully, you know, my partners agreed, and Jabari got the part.
Well, also speaking to the rest of the cast, you know, people like Cassandra Freeman, Adrian Holmes, you know, Ali Sholatan, Coco Jones, Akira Akbar, all of them are playing characters that we recognize from the original. But could you just sort of touch briefly on each of them and what you felt like made them the right version, what made them feel like the right people for this version of the Banks family, I guess?
Okay, sure. Yeah, Coco, I mean, Coco is exactly who I had in mind for Reimagine Hillary. Her swag, her charisma, you know, Coco makes moments. That's what she does, you know, and she commands the screen. But at the same time, she's so giving to her scene partners as well, and gives them space to do their best work. And she's just a total package, you know. So that was a very quick yes when we saw her audition. It was like, you know, she was on that Zoom for about 10 minutes. We all looked at each other and said, "That's Coco," like no question about it. So she just had it, you know. She just had that it factor, that star power that you can't teach. You can't teach what she has, right? And so, and then, you know, thinking about Ali, you know, Ali just had this like wit, you know what I mean? This just kind of like biting wit, but a lot of charm and heart that you need in a character like Carlton. And we knew that we would need that. You know, there's really an A and B side with Carlton's character in season 1, where we see, you know, more some of the venom that he can spew, you know what I mean, and some of his through some of his insecurities, right, through the prism of his insecurities, but also, you know, a lot of heart and a lot of love that he shows, you know, once he really warms up to someone, and you know, so Ali really embodied those things. And you know, Ali loves a good prop. We always joke about that on set, you know. Ali's the guy like who loves to like, you know, be you know, and so he's just such an like, he loves acting, and he loves to like, you know, fall into roles in like a really real way, you know, and occupy these spaces and own space. He's just a young star, you know, in every way, and he embodied those things. And in the chemistry between him and Jabari, like it was so clear that like, man, like this chemistry is undeniable, and they're 2 brilliant young actors who are going to be in this business for years to come. So And then Cassie, oh my God, and the same thing with Viv. You know, we didn't want Viv in Bel-Air to be a relic of a sitcom in any way, shape, or form. And those are big shoes to fill, you know, with Janet Hubert and Daphne Reed, like big shoes to fill, because both of them are just so iconic and did such amazing things in the sitcom. So for us, it's like, and what I told Cassie is like, you know, we're not here to fill shoes. We're here to create our own shoes. You know what I mean? So like, I want you to bring your heart and your spirit to Viv. And then what manifests on screen is going to be Viv 3.0 and is going to, you know, be free of, you know, comparison of the other two Vivs. And that's exactly what happened. She brought her charm and she's so funny. Like, she's so funny and just like the way she moves and her swag, once again, it's just like she's a star, and she has this unique ability for moment creation as well. Just some of the things that she does to elevate the material on a page in a really unique way. She's just such an incredible actor. And, you know, she had amazing chemistry with Adrian, who she'd worked with before, who is our Phil. And he just brought this really regal, you know, energy and like, you know what I mean? Just looks good at like 007 type energy to Phil, you know what I mean? And he's just such a force, and felt like the perfect, you know, leader of this family, you know, between him and Viv. And I can't say enough about Cassie and Adrian. They're just terrific actors. And, you know, young Akira is a rising star, and she is just such great energy and, you know, such a winning personality, and, you know, really meshed well with the family. And so I can't say enough about her. And then Jimmy, I mean, golly, he is Jeffrey, you know what I mean? I remember being on the casting call with him, and I gave him, you know, a few minutes to just kind of throw it away and just have fun with the role. You know what I mean? Let's just play, you know, as we were reading on that Zoom. We did all the casting sessions on Zoom. And oh my God, like he said some things that just like had all of us just like, oh my God, like, you know, this guy just embodies the spirit of, you know, new Jeffrey, who is, you know, the residential manager. He's no longer a butler. Like, he gets shit done for Phil, you know what I mean? And he brought that type of energy to the table, you know, right off rip. So, you know, that's the fam, and they pretty incredible family. We're very, very lucky with the cast that we found. Did I cover everybody?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say just really strong chemistry too between the whole family. Yeah. And I also did just want to touch on the production itself and the mansion in Bel-Air, which is so opulent and just so meticulously designed. And, you know, I think you're given more freedom to explore that area than maybe the original series did. So what was the thought process behind just what the look should be for the mansion, which is obviously so integral to this story?
No, absolutely. And once again, it kind of goes to the format, right, of what they did with the sitcom, half-hour comedy, and you're confined to a set, you know, where your lighting is coming from, you know, tungsten lights above, and, you know, everything is just kind of lit bright. So it's like we wanted to bring, it was really important that we brought more of a naturalist component, you know, to this world, because we're grounding it in a modern day drama. You know, asking ourselves, what kind of money does Phil make? You know what I mean? What type of homes, you know, what would, you know, would Viv and Phil respond to, right? And so, you know, really just doing the research and pulling a lot of references together with our amazing production designer, you know, Corey Kaplan, and production, and just, you know, we landed on a house that we were all really happy with. And, you know, for me, it was really important. Like, the big mandate was everything has to feel iconic, and everything has to feel big in terms of scope, you know what I mean? Always through the prism of authenticity, right? Always. But like, I wanted the show to feel big. We shot on large format cameras. I wanted it to feel larger than life. Once again, you know, going the opposite direction of, you know, the 4-3, you know, sitcom of the 90s. It's like, no, let's go big with this, you know? And that's what we did. We wanted it to feel immersive. We wanted the house to feel like another character in the show, in the same way that the house was, you know, you could see the silhouette of the house from the OG sitcom, and you know it's the Fresh Prince house, right? You know, it's that much of a character in that same set. And so for us, it was like, how can we make the house a character in our show? And the spaces that these characters occupy, let's bring them to life in a real way. And so a lot of detail, a lot of production meetings to make sure we get those details right.
Yeah. Just going back to the casting real quick, I did want to speak to a few fun castings towards the end of the season, which I don't know if we're saying that they're spoilers, but you know, if you're watching this and you want to have them be surprises, feel free to bounce out now and come back. But in episode 9, we have two very special guest stars in Daphne Reed and Bernie Johnson as the board members of the art council. And obviously fans of Fresh Prince will recognize them as the second Aunt Viv and Vi. So how did all of that come together to bring them back?
Yeah, absolutely. It was an idea that we'd been discussing for a while, and it was an idea that Will was really excited about, and we're able to get in touch with them, and they were just super on board with it, and we just made it happen, you know. And Matthew Cherry, big shout out Matthew, did a terrific job with that episode and directing them. And you know, one of my favorite moments for the series, and it still moves me emotionally every time I see it, is the moment where Daphne, well, it's actually where Vivian hands Daphne's character the painting of James Avery. And she looks at the picture, the painting of James Avery, and she kind of touches his heart. You know, that moment is just so tender and so beautiful, and one of my favorite moments, you know, from season 1. So pretty beautiful.
Yeah. Well, just in these last few moments here, I did want to speak to the fact that you're not only, you know, producing, but this is your first time writing and directing and producing outside of, you know, short films. And I'm just curious how daunting it was to just work on this kind of scale and to be so heavily involved in this first season, at least.
Yeah, you know, I've always been an artist who loves pressure. You know, I love pressure and I love meeting the moment. I love pushing myself, you know, within my craft, because that's why I do it. Like, I'm very, very passionate about the making. You know, all the other stuff is great, but like, you know, I'm still the same kid with the Canon T2i that I bought when I was 18 years old. You know, I approach the job with that sense of wonder every single day. And more than anything, I believed in the idea, and I still do believe in the idea. You know, since the idea hit me when I was driving out 71, it's been the same energy. It's been the same belief in this concept and the impact that, you know, it's had. Right. And so, you know, it's all about just taking one step at a time every single day, you know, because if you try to like wrap your arms around the whole thing at once, it's like you can't reach it. Right. But if you take small steps every day, you know, make sure I'm doing everything I can to deliver on time, right, and you know, deliver in terms of my contribution to the project every single day. That's all you can do. And I was fortunate and am fortunate to work with great collaborators, you know, who do have, you know, tons of television experience. You know, if there was something I didn't know, there's always somebody that can answer a question for me. You know what I mean? And I always like, I want to learn, you know what I mean? And so I'm shameless when it comes to asking things I don't know, because I want to learn and I want to get better at what you do. And you know, I've put in the 10,000 hours of my craft. Specifically, I was a cameraman for years. I was a cinematographer, right? And I transitioned into writing, directing, and I've been doing this every single day since I was 18 years old. You know what I mean? And so I'm very confident, you know, in my vision, in my ability as a storyteller and as a filmmaker. And so, you know, standing on my experience is really important, but at the same time, creating the space for your collaborators to bring their magic to the process is what I think is really good directing is all about. And giving your actors, we have a phenomenal cast, giving them space to thrive and do their best work is what it's all about. And I like to think that's one of my superpowers, is bringing people together in a real way and putting people in a position to do their best work. If everybody's doing their best work, we all win together. And the project, you know, the product that comes out of that hits the screen in a way that's meaningful for viewers. And so that's what it's all about to me, man, is staying focused on the craft, you know, not letting the moment overwhelm you. Always stay cool, calm, and collected. You're steering a very big ship, and everybody's looking at you saying, are you gonna land this thing safely? You know what I mean? And so even when everything's burning down and stuff like that, always stay cool, always be thinking about, you know, solution-oriented ways of thinking. So.
Well, congrats on just the success of this first season. Congrats on the season 2 pickup.
Thank you.
And for those of you watching, subscribe for more interviews and go to goldderby.com to make your Emmy predictions. Morgan, thanks so much for talking with me today.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.